All right, let's talk about James Joyce. Specifically, we're going to tackle the final haunting story in his legendary collection, Dubliners. We're talking about the dead.
Now, you've probably heard this before. It has this incredible reputation. For a century, it's been called a masterpiece of quiet compassion, a profoundly moving, and, for a lot of people, a deeply comforting story.
And that ending, oh, that ending. The famous final paragraph, right? Where the snow is falling softly all across Ireland on the living and the dead. It's held up as this ultimate image of peace and resolution, where everything just settles.
But what if that's all wrong? What if that reading is just way too easy? What if that beauty is actually a kind of lie, masking something much crueler? What if this perfect story is really a trap, designed to lull us into feeling a comfort we haven't earned?
So, first up, let's explore this darker take. This is the idea that Joyce isn't here to make us feel better at all. He's here to wound us in a very specific and very quiet way.
The key concept to get here is lateness. See, Joyce doesn't hurt his characters with some big, dramatic betrayal. His brand of cruelty is much more subtle. He lets understanding arrive just a moment too late. The insight shows up right after the chance to act on it. To love someone differently, to change anything at all, has already slipped away. It's the tragedy of getting it right when it no longer matters. And this whole idea of lateness brings us straight to the story's protagonist, Gabriel Conroy. And that leads us to the central debate about what's really going on in his head at the end of the story. So here it is, the question that has split critics for decades. Is Gabriel's big aha moment in that hotel room a real moral awakening? Or is it just another, maybe more poetic, form of self-deception? The classic debate is really framed by two heavyweights. On one side, you've got the biographer Richard Ellman. He says, yes, it's a genuine awakening. It's not about redemption, but about Gabriel finding true humility when his whole sense of superiority just crumbles. But then, on the other side, critic Hugh Kenner says, no way. He calls it a mere rearrangement. He argues Gabriel just swaps one flattering mask, the smug intellectual, for another, the deeply sensitive soul. And Kenner's warning here is sharp. Don't ever mistake beautiful words for actual change. And of course, the conversation gets even more complicated from there. The feminist critic Marilyn French asks this absolutely killer question. Why do we treat his emotional discomfort as some profound enlightenment, while his wife Gretta's real, lived grief is treated like a prop for his development? Others, like Declan Kibbard, see Gabriel's paralysis as political. He's a symptom of the colonized Irish intellectual. And then you have critics like J. Hillis Miller who point out that even in his moment of humility, Gabriel is still the one controlling the story, absorbing everything into his own consciousness. That's just another kind of mastery, isn't it? You can almost hear Joyce himself, with that dry Irish wit, saying something like this. If just stringing together beautiful words could save your soul, well, he'd have been a saint a long, long time ago. It's a perfect reminder that having an insight and actually acting on it are two totally different things. All this back and forth about Gabriel's awakening makes us ask a much more fundamental question. Whose story is this really? And who actually has the emotional power here? So back in that hotel room, the story hits its absolute emotional peak. It is a moment of pure, shattering revelation. But here's the twist. That emotional climax, it doesn't even belong to the main character we've been following all night. It belongs to his wife, Gretta. It's her memory of her grief for a boy who died years ago out of a reckless, passionate love for her. And this is where the critique gets really powerful. Gabriel, maybe without even meaning to, essentially co-opts his wife's trauma. Her specific, raw pain becomes the material for his journey of self-discovery. He translates her grief into a universal lesson about himself. And think about it. By the end, Gretta is asleep, silent, and the entire narrative follows Gabriel's thoughts as he processes her experience. This leads us right back to that famous ending, that iconic image of the snow. So let's do it. Let's put that final paragraph on trial and question everything we thought we knew about it. So the snow falls on everyone, uniting them all in a shared fate. We're taught to see this as this beautiful moment of compassion, but is it? Or could it be something more dangerous? Could it be an act of erasure? Well, here are the two big interpretations. On one hand, the snow is humility. It's the symbol of the moment Gabriel's ego finally dissolves into a larger mystery he can't control.
But the other reading is that the snow is an anesthetic. Its beauty numbs us. It smooths over Gretta's specific, gendered pain, and it gives us the feeling of resolution while actually just burying the details that matter.
Joyce himself seemed to understand this danger. He once said, "When a metaphor succeeds too well, it begins to lie." It's an incredible insight. When something is too perfect, too elegant, it might actually be hiding the messy truth.
So if Gabriel isn't saved, and the snow doesn't offer easy comfort, what are we left with? Well, this is where the story's real genius lies. Not in the answers it gives us, but in the unsettling questions it leaves behind.
Joyce really forces us to look at ourselves. Do we sometimes do what Gabriel does? Do we mistake the feeling of deep self-reflection for actual moral progress? And what about beauty? In art or in life? Does a beautiful moment sometimes tempt us to forgive ourselves or others way too easily before any real work has been done?
And maybe this is the final, sharpest question of all. Do our own big awakenings tend to show up only when the party's over? When it's safe and quiet, and our new insight requires absolutely nothing from us? When it costs us nothing at all?
In the end, Joyce doesn't give us a neat, tidy resolution. If Gabriel awakens to anything, it's not wisdom, it's doubt. And as Joyce knew better than anyone, doubt, unlike certainty, has a future. It's what keeps the story and its reader truly alive.